around this room, and there are so many people here who are making really great national impact. I mean, just right up here in the front, I see Mila and Jane back there who are doing really great internationally reaching blog and vlog. Well, I'm slogging. And I see, Nick Gorton up there, who's done great work advocating with lots of medical things and doing medical education. And I see Mal Kim, who's on our staff. And I see Chaz Bono, who we heard from last night. And next to him is Nick Adams, who works for the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation and doing great work. And next to him is Daniel Gould, who does so much great help stuff. Lots of different organizations. And John Williams is here, who's been working for the National Center for Lesbian Rights, doing ENDA organizing for the last 2 years, and is really a big reason why we're so close to getting ENDA passed. There's just a lot of ways you can get involved nationally, even if you never leave your living room. Although I suggest occasionally. Or, just ways to do it. Just telling your story matters so much. Okay, so in a nutshell, national level, I should say I'm the Executive Director of the National Center for Transgender Equality. Boy, the state of national activism is really vibrant right now in lots of different ways. There's a lot of folks working all over the country and all over the world really on, for instance, the DSM reform, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual reform. And I mean, that's something that impacts a lot of trans people all over the world, and that's very vibrant. I mean, there are thousands of folks working on that. There are a lot of people working on federal policy. That's where I focus my slogging. Slogging is what are you doing? You slog. We're slogging through the mud, trying to move some stuff in Washington. But in federal policy, things are actually going really well. I think ENDA is the thing folks focus on the most. And by the way, that actually is going really well. I mean, it's not passed yet, and that's, I think, very frustrating to all of us. And until it is passed, I think none of us feel like it's going really well. But the truth is we are so far ahead of where we were, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. I mean, 5 years ago, they were still telling us in Washington, gender identity will never be an ENDA. It will never pass, but it's never going to be in there in the first place. And now we're in there. We're pretty firmly cemented in, not 100% yet. But we have 202 members of Congress who have signed up to be co-sponsors of the bill. You only need 218 to pass it, and we have 202 co-sponsors. There has never been an LGBT bill, with over 200 sponsors before. And this is the trans-inclusive ENDA that everybody said was impossible. So we are so close. One member of Congress told me the other day that we are within microns of passing ENDA, but we're not done yet, and we really need everybody to really get in there and push it over the finish line, because it could fall, it could fail now and just stop dead, so everybody keep pushing on that. But there's a lot of other really great stuff going on. There are a lot of folks doing some great healthcare advocacy, particularly now with the healthcare reform bill passing. There's a lot of implementation that has to be done, getting the federal government to do the right stuff now that the law has been passed. And very importantly, something I know that I'll speak for Mason and other people in this room, because a lot of us did a lot of work on this. Healthcare reform passed. Last summer we were told there's no way it's not going to have a transgender exclusion, that says federal money cannot be used for transition-related care. Although they were saying sex change surgery. Like, there's no way this bill is not going to have something that says no federal money for sex change surgery. It passed. There is nothing in there about that. And that is actually a huge win. Now we have to make sure that the kind of policies we need actually happen. And we're all working on that. There are just so many folks doing stuff that you never even hear about. Like I see Ed DeFilippo up there, who works for the Census Bureau. You still work at the Census Bureau, right? Ed, virtually single-handedly, although I should say nothing ever really happened single-handedly, but this one's pretty close to it. Ed got the Census Bureau to really focus on trans stuff, think about trans people, do specific outreach for trans people to respond to the census, even though it doesn't count us. But Ed and I have had that conversation. Specific outreach to trans people about being census workers, and that is something we need desperately as jobs, and how to overcome things like, you're a census worker? Yeah. And how to overcome the selective service registration problem that so many trans people born after January 1st, 1960 have. And there's just so much of that kind of stuff going on. I don't know if I should go any more in depth, Mason. Is that?
I think that's a good start.
Okay, that's a good start. There'll be time for questions, I suppose.
Yes.
Why don't I turn it over to the other Mark Keisling, or do I kick it back to you?
You can take it to me.
Okay, here it is, Mason.
So we